It had been raining all afternoon. Not the kind of storm that screams on rooftops, but that thin southern drizzle that clings to your clothes and makes everything smell like wet concrete. I remember stepping out of the little corner store with a loaf of bread and a bottle of sweet tea jacket zipped up the way I learned in the Army posture straight, like my sergeant used to bark at me for. Bronze pins tucked under the flap. Nobody ever noticed them but me. I wasn't thinking about trouble. I was thinking about dinner, about bills, about the laundry waiting in my apartment. And then I heard it, a car door slam, a voice already sharp. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." Two white uniforms moving like they'd rehearsed it, one hand on a holster, one on a flashlight. Even though the sun hadn't set yet. "Is something wrong?" I asked. Kept my hands visible, kept my voice low. "Old habits, suspicious activity. We got a call. You fit the description." I laughed, once the kind of laugh you do when it's too absurd to be real. "Suspicious? I just bought bread." One of them smirked at my jacket. "So you're a soldier, huh?" "Sergeant retired," I corrected. "You don't look like much of a hero." The other one muttered, eyes on my grocery bag like it was contraband. I felt something flicker in my chest, not anger, not yet, just that old, tired feeling. "Is this how you treat all veterans or just the black ones?" The air went electric. He took a step closer. "Ma'am, turn around." "For what?" "Stop resisting." "I'm not resisting," I said. My back was against my own car door now, but it didn't matter. Hands on my wrist twist, shove cuffs biting skin, my metals digging into my chest as they slammed me against the hood. The bag dropped, bread and milk bleeding into puddles. A woman across the street peeked through blinds and then shut them fast. Curtains twitched, but no one came. Inside the cruiser, rainwater ran down my face like tears, but my eyes stayed dry. I'd seen worse. Kandahar, Mosul. But I hadn't expected this in my own hometown. I stared at the rear-view mirror, locked eyes with the driver. "You're going to regret this," I said quietly. He chuckled. "What's the Army gonna do, march in?" He didn't know about the little system built for moments like this, a silent alert tied to my veteran ID, to every time someone like me got flagged or cuffed for nothing. Somewhere downtown, a desk light flicked on a screen, flashed code indigo. Someone was reading my name. The precinct smelled like burnt coffee and arrogance. They typed up a report that painted me like an animal, resisted, unstable, aggressive. The DA's rep slid in wearing a cheap tie, telling me if I just pled down to a misdemeanor, it could all go away. "That's how the game works," he said. I stared at him. "So you're telling me to accept guilt for something I didn't do?" He shrugged. "People like you always lose. People like me." Three words that carried every battle I'd ever fought. But the cracks started to show. A young cop, Monroe clean-shave badge still shining like new, slipped a folded memo onto the bulletin board by my cell. "You're not alone. Don't break." It said Roar and Clean had been flagged before. Another officer, Thomas Black like me, whispered through the bars about a man named Maurice Bell. Same cops, same station, dead 2 days after release. They thought they were burying paper, but they were planting seeds. I sat on that steel bench, back straight, wrists raw, and remembered carrying bodies across open ground overseas, praying not to get shot before the evac. I remembered a kid in my unit, Keon Brooks, first-gen college, blown apart by an IED. "Sarge," he'd whispered, "make sure my mom knows I died for something." I had believed it meant something back then. That uniform, that flag, that promise. Now home was where I got thrown in a cage for groceries. Morning crept in without light. Then it happened. First, a slam of car doors. More than two. Heavy boots on concrete, not the lazy stomp of local beat cops, but the crisp stride of federal agents. The lobby door burst open. Jackets marked with 3 bold letters across the back, FBI. The air pressure in the room shifted. Collins, the precinct captain, faked a smile. "Morning, agents. To what do we owe?" Special Agent Reuben Meyer stepped forward. "This isn't a courtesy call. We have a federal warrant to seize all electronic records tied to officers Roar and Clean." The room went silent. 2 agents moved past him toward the evidence room. Another plugged into the server hub. Then Myers turned toward the cells. "Angela Cole." I stood. "You're under federal protection now." Keys rattled. Cuffs off just like that. No apology, just precision. Collins sputtered about jurisdiction. Myers cut him off. Your station's been under investigation for 8 months. You've harbored officers with more than a dozen flagged complaints, deleted footage, falsified statements. It detonated in the room. Rohr sat frozen mid-bite of his sandwich. Clean stopped in the hallway with his coffee. The agents played an audio clip, Clean's voice sneering about me months ago. Then Myers said, "The one who submitted it was one of your own." Every head turned. Monroe stood near the break room. Didn't run, didn't flinch. I filed every single complaint, he said, voice steady now. Archived everything before it got wiped. Sent it to Internal Affairs. When no one listened, I escalated. Collins called him a traitor. Monroe replied, "No, you are." I walked out of that cell, slow head high, scanning the room like a soldier checking for snipers. For the first time, they backed up. They released me through the back to avoid the cameras. But the footage was already out. 34-second clip shot from a kid's window. My arms twisted behind me, my medals flashing under rain, my jaw clenched. His caption, "This is how we treat veterans now." By the time I got home, it had gone viral. Reporters called, hashtags exploded. People who used to avert their eyes at the grocery store were suddenly tagging me in posts. But the message that broke me wasn't from a politician or a journalist. It was from a 12-year-old girl named Maya. She wrote, "Sometimes the world is mean to people like us, even when we're good. You were calm. You're the only hero I've seen stand up without hitting anybody. I hope I grow up brave like you." That one email did more than 1,000 retweets. It reminded me why any of this mattered. Weeks later, I sat under the cold lights of a congressional hearing room. No uniform, no medals, just my name on a plaque. I laid out the evidence, stacks of complaints, purged reports, body cam logs. Monroe had saved documents Thomas had risked her job to print. I didn't yell. I didn't have to. One senator tried to cut me off with the "few bad apples" line. I said quietly, one bad apple doesn't ruin a bunch. But a bunch that hides the bad one, that's a rotten tree. The room went still. By the end of the week, Rohr and Clean were indicted, Collins suspended, more precincts audited. Monroe was reassigned to the Attorney General's office as liaison. But it wasn't a happy ending, not yet. I still had bruises on my wrists. My benefits were still under review. My neighborhood still smelled like wet concrete. A group of middle school kids stepped off a bus outside the Capitol that day. Black-brown mixed. They spotted me, whispered, didn't rush for selfies, just stood and watched. I smiled at them, tired but proud. They didn't make me silent. And now I speak for all of us. I went home, reheated my tea, and opened a blank notebook. At the top of the page, I wrote day one after the silence. Because this isn't over, not the story, not the fight. And that's what I want you to take from this. We're taught to believe dignity is something you earn, a medal, a rank, a clean record. But the truth is, some people will try to take it from you, no matter what you've earned. The real fight is refusing to let them. I'm not a victim, I'm a witness. If you've ever seen someone get treated like less for just existing, if you've ever wondered how it feels to be on the other side of that badge, ask yourself, would you stay silent? Or would you be the one who writes the note, the one who saves the file, the one who steps forward when it counts? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you've seen, what you felt, what you think should change. Because silence never saved anyone, but your voice might.